The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I'm one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
Another host, Warren Van.
It is episode 64 of the Warren and Bradley Show.
Oh.
We have so much to talk about. We didn't get to half of what was on my little iPhone list, which I write out every week.
Really?
As things occur throughout the week, I'll jot it down on my iPhone using the voice recognition.
Oh, you use that? Really?
Oh, I use that all the time.
And it works?
Oh, yeah. You have to speak the punctuation. But, you know, other than that, it works fine.
Huh. That's amazing.
It works really well.
I tried to have a conversation with Siri a while back, and it got increasingly absurd.
You sound drunk most of the time. Maybe that's the problem. You're slurring your words. Actually, someone was listening to the podcast the other day and remarked how good of a radio voice you had, Warren.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't have the good radio voice. You have the good radio voice.
Supposedly you do. Apparently mine is too low and droning, and yours is very nice. It's right in that sweet spot, I guess. I don't know.
No, that's news to me, right? Because I always hear it and I think that it sounds like really like screechy and obnoxious.
Well, it's funny because I hear mine and it sounds like I'm like an old black man or something.
Well, I think that's in comparison to mine, right? I think that's
Maybe.
why it makes you sound like old man.
Isn't that interesting, though? This is all weird tangent. I was going to try to actually outline what we're going to talk about in the show, but fuck it. That weird perception of how you sound, because I always knew how I sounded singing because I've been in bands and I hear recordings of me singing all the time. But the speaking voice, even though you're hearing it, you're also hearing it in your own head, and that alters the perception of it. But when we first started doing the podcast and I was editing for hours, like hearing the both of us speak, you sound the way you sound because I hear you all the time.
That's true.
Like, I'm hearing you again. Okay, that's Warren. And I sounded like this. I did not have any clue that my voice was as low as it appears to be.
But now after listening to yourself as much as you've listened to yourself at this point, it sounds normal now, right?
Now it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, that's how my voice sounds normal now when I hear it on the show. I'm like,
right.
Oh yeah, that guy. I know that character.
Well, it was a weird, interesting shift to perception because then you start figuring that other people must hear you that way, and they always have heard you that way.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking, okay, maybe I have this very powerful, low, angry voice, and I can yell at people now and intimidate them more easily. So I've been trying to work that into my repertoire.
But now that you have listened to your voice a lot, you just realize that that's just a voice that you have that...
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound weird.
Yeah. Okay, that was the digression done. Now we're going to get to...
Man, you're really into like formatting the show.
Well, there were so many things I wanted to talk about last week, and we didn't get to any of them. I had a great Street Freak of the Week, and totally blanked out on it. I don't know why. So we'll have Street Freak of the Week this week. We'll have Celebrity Minute. I think we're going to give Netflix picks a little rest for the week. Haven't watched anything new on Netflix lately. I've just been downloading screener copies of...
Asian movies?
No, of movies that are in theaters now that people have been raving about, and I figured I better watch them.
Like what?
Tried to watch The Hobbit repeatedly. I cannot get through it. I give a little context to my background in The Lord of the Rings. I first read The Hobbit when I was 10, and yeah, it was a great book for a 10-year-old. It's a nice little fairy tale story. Oh, there's in a hole in the ground lived a hobbit, and there's little elves, there's big giant spiders, there's a dragon. Like, oh, this is great. Then I read the Lord of the Rings trilogy when I was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And because I was that age when I first read them, they'll always have a little bit of a soft spot within my heart.
It's the same relationship I have with Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll go see another... I was saying in a previous show that I would go see another Star Wars movie even though it's stupid.
Right.
Because I have like this sort of like kinship.
You were at the right age
yeah.
for it to grab a hold of your subconscious or
so
your
I'm interested in
imagination
Jedis and lightsabers and stuff.
Exactly.
That stuff, like, I'm like, ooh, I have a puerile interest in it.
We grew up with that when we were little kids. We used to talk about, what if they actually invent lightsabers? And we used to dream about things like that all the time. Yeah, and we'd try to use the Force. We'd sit there.
Yeah,
like,
so we would try to manipulate objects from across the room.
A lot of burst blood vessels and aneurysms.
Shitting our pants.
So yeah, I was at the right age to get into the Lord of the Rings. I haven't read the trilogy recently or anything. So when the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, was like, oh, this isn't a bad interpretation of the world. It's not horrible. Watched the second one. I was like, this is starting to wear a little thin here. It seems like he's overinflating this, trying to get more out of it than there actually is. By the time the third movie came around, I was like, okay, this is obnoxious. It's irritating. I watched it, but I didn't really particularly enjoy it. I have a lot of members of my family who are very much into the films, the Lord of the Rings films. And so, The Hobbit. Everyone's talking about The Hobbit. You got to watch The Hobbit. And I was already cynical because I knew that he was stretching it into 3-hour-long fucking movies, even though the book is a fraction of the size of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was 3 movies.
I'm sure it's to serve all the great content.
Exactly. Instead of a cynical money grab.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not that.
No, there's no way.
So I started watching it. I got about 20 minutes in the first time. I was like, oh, God, turn it off. Try it again. Got maybe another 20 minutes in. Still hadn't left the fucking Shire by that point. There's been all these weird digressions and flashbacks, none of which were in the book. I'm just like, oh, what's going on? Fucking dwarves trundling into Bilbo's hobbit hole, jumping around like jackasses, throwing dishes around, singing little songs. Like a fucking Disney musical where somehow all these dwarves have decided they're going to write a song about irritating Bilbo before they go to Bilbo's house.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance that they throw his plates around, they'll have a song chambered that they can sing to annoy him. And then at the same time juxtaposed with these portentous slow motion like father flashbacks of tragedy and great epic battles and everything. It's just, is this movie a slapstick comedy for children or is it a grim epic fairy tale? It has some weird identity crisis. It doesn't know what the fuck it is. Still haven't left the fucking Shire. I'm about an hour into the movie. The journey hasn't even begun.
Yeah.
And it's just interminable. And I cannot imagine actually finishing the movie. I may, just to, I don't know,
out of cussedness,
out feeding my weird masochistic urges or something, I might force myself to finish the movie. I also watched Lincoln recently. Did not enjoy it. Everyone else has been raving about Lincoln. I'm like, oh, it's probably going to win all these Oscars, so I better watch Lincoln to see what all the hubbub's about. Irritating. You were talking about how you had just seen War Horse.
For some reason, I had War Horse on my list of movies to watch.
Yeah.
I had seen someone praise it or something, so I was like, I'll watch this War Horse movie. It took many days for me to watch this.
You had some strong words before we started recording. I was trying to get you to stop. So
I started yelling
I know.
and doing impersonations of characters from War Horse in a very angry way before we were recording, and Brad's like, oh, no, we got to get this on tape.
Save it.
War Horse is a movie for maybe a 6-year-old with, I don't know, some sort of
developmental disability.
Yeah, or cerebral palsy maybe or something. I mean, it is a movie for idiots.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people gay for a horse.
Yeah.
And then it's the same old...
Would that be gay for a horse?
Hey, it's a male horse.
All right.
And they're all loving this horse, and they can't get enough of the horse, and the horse is like giving people looks and giving looks to other horses, and it's like a cartoon that moves incredibly slowly. With the most ridiculous stereotypical characters. The drunken father is going to shoot the horse for no reason.
Right.
Just for a dramatic moment. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. But we'll throw that in there because it's like, ooh, what's going to happen? Is the drunken man going to shoot the war horse, Joey? No, he's not going to. And it just goes on and on and on and on.
So it's a young boy who loves his horse. The horse gets taken away. The horse gets thrown into World War I and goes on adventures and touches the lives of everyone he encounters.
Getting moved around, and everyone's like, ooh, I love this horse.
Yeah.
Little girl.
Because it's a great horse.
The thing is, the horse just seems like a normal horse to me. You don't see anything that's that impressive about the horse.
This is the thing. I've been complaining about Steven Spielberg for quite some time now, and I don't know if anyone yet has started listening to me or not, but everyone was raving about Lincoln, and the thing that's been driving me crazy about Steven Spielberg movies, and now that I've keyed in on this, I'm going back and watching other Spielberg movies and seeing the same fucking thing. It's this inflated portentousness, this like sense that everything is the most important scene ever. I'm trying to like pinpoint parts in Lincoln. First of all, Lincoln was slow. It was dry. Some of it was somewhat interesting, just kind of the political machinations that went into actually getting the 13th Amendment passed. It was interesting, I guess, to that extent. Daniel Day-Lewis's performance was good. He's always good and everything. That's not a surprise. But it was overlong, and that weird Spielbergian portentousness was infused in every single fucking frame. The thing that drove me the craziest about the movie, and I think it's very representative of the film as a whole, was the very last, well, not the very last scene, almost the very last scene. This isn't giving anything away because everyone knows that Lincoln gets shot.
What?
Yeah, sorry, Warren. Spoiler alert. He's walking to Ford Theater. He's about to leave the White House, and his little black servant, he's passed the 13th Amendment, and all his little black servants that are around are all pleased by this.
Yeah.
And then...
Do they do that thing where he walks by and they all stand there and, like, honor him?
Well, okay. He's about to leave to go to Ford's Theater. His wife is waiting in the carriage or something.
Yeah.
And his little black servant... I don't know why I keep saying little black servant.
Stop
It's because
saying
of the way he's portrayed in the movie in kind of this weird condescending manner. Anyway, he's trying to give Lincoln his gloves, and Lincoln always just takes his glove and throws them on the bedside table. He won't take his gloves. And the servant, oh, that's incorrigible. Why don't you take your gloves, Lincoln? So once again, Lincoln takes the gloves and then throws them aside. And as he's walking out of the White House, he's silhouetted against... It's supposed to be night, so I don't know where this light's coming from. But he's silhouetted and regally walking forth. And his servant, who in real life, all he knows is that Lincoln's going to the theater and he's coming back. He doesn't know he's going to be shot at Ford Theater. Nothing. But he gives him this adoring look, and the music swells, and it's like this... I don't even know if it's in slow motion, but it seemed like it was in slow motion as Lincoln walks away, and it'll be the last time he ever sees him. He doesn't fucking know it'll be the last time he ever sees him. And so then I was thinking about all these other Spielberg movies that are highly praised. Fucking Saving Private Ryan would be a great movie if they cut out the prologue and the epilogue with the obnoxious old man at the cemetery going,
Am I a good man? Tell me I'm a good man.
Oh, but don't forget the scene where the general like actually reads a letter by Lincoln for some reason.
Oh, God.
To just make it more dramatic.
It's this maudlin sentimentality and lowest common denominator. I know what the stakes are already. I understand that. I'm not a fucking idiot.
Well, that's the problem.
You don't need to drill it into my head over and over again.
That's the problem. Going to war.
Yes.
As maybe an 18 or 19-year-old being shipped onto the beaches at Normandy.
Yeah.
Thrown into hell. That can't sustain a drama.
No,
there's no way. There's not enough there, right? It's too boring.
The history is compelling enough. We don't need to pad it with this bullshit.
The story is compelling enough.
Yes.
There's enough going on.
And then I was even thinking back to, like, Schindler's List, which, by all accounts, everyone's like, oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a great movie. But there was still, at the end with Schindler, this ring. I could have bought one more life with this ring. This watch could have been 2 more lives. And he's crying and screaming and falling to the floor. Everyone's like, oh no, Schindler, you're one. I doubt that happened. We didn't need to see that. I don't know. Spielberg was great when he was making popcorn flicks, and now he has to make movies about the Holocaust and about slavery and about a horse that's running around in World War I, and everything has to be epic and everything has to be portentous and everything has to be... It just drives me insane.
Oh, it's intolerable. I don't think I'll watch Lincoln. I know people have been like, "Why you gonna watch that Lincoln?" I'm an American history person. I know, and so I'm like, it's like really painful for me to watch things like that.
I'd be interested to get your take on it. I'm assuming it would annoy you as much as it annoyed me. And also, I just hate the fact that since it's about passing the 13th Amendment and freeing slaves, then it has to be critically lauded. I'm not anti-13th Amendment by any means.
No, well,
but
just the fact that it has Daniel Day-Lewis in it, and it's about Abraham Lincoln. It's directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
It doesn't... I mean, he could have been sitting there in a porta potty, like, taking a dump for 3 hours, and they would have... people would be like, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure, from what you've said, is based on my preconceived notions about what's going to go on with that movie, which will just be maudlin and, like, so dramatic every moment. And I just can't watch things like that.
Yeah.
The process in a story, if you're telling a good story, is good enough usually, right?
It should be.
Rather than just structuring around all these like really intense emotional moments with swelling music.
The very first thing you learn in creative writing, in fiction writing, and in screenwriting is show, not tell. I don't like these weird exposition scenes. I don't like these scenes where they try to drill emotion into you. The story, the momentum of the story, what the actors are doing should convey that emotion. And if it doesn't, these contrived scenes are superfluous and they don't need to be in the film.
Well, they're contrived scenes.
They're contrived.
And they just stick a bunch of those in there. I mean, that's what happened with the fucking Warhorse.
Yeah.
It's like one scene after another where a tender moment with the Warhorse, where the Warhorse does something dramatic and the music swells.
I'm a sucker for animals, so I don't know. I'd still probably be irritated by it, but I do. I don't know. I liked Black Beauty when I was a kid.
Oh, that precious Warhorse.
I did watch Wreck-It Ralph. That was pretty good.
I can't watch that.
A lot of good old school video game references. God, this is another movie minute segment. We should, I guess, officially have a movie minute segment, which is basically just us bitching about movies that we've seen recently. But
I need to stop watching movies.
It seems like it. You get very angry.
Because they're just so awful.
There's good ones.
There are occasionally I see a good movie, I'm like, wow, that was a nice
Zero
piece
Dark
of work.
30 was great. You should watch that.
I'm excited about seeing Zero Dark 30 because my understanding is it doesn't suffer from some of these things that I got to the point where I can't stand them anymore.
Catherine Bigelow knows how to tell a story. She infuses tension into scenes organically. Everything works. It's masterful direction. I thought it was great.
Well, The Hurt Locker, I felt that way about too. It was it was telling a very dramatic story. I'm sure if Steven Spielberg got his hands on that, it would be like, here come the strings as like Jeremy Renner slow motion walks out to get and then everyone's like turning and looking, and there's like a little Arab boy and like an eagle lands on his shoulder, and it's just like and the movie goes on for 5 hours and adds nothing to the movie and just makes the movie really boring.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't need that.
All right. Okay, so again, we veered off crazily from my list. It was good. It was interesting. Bitching about movies. I'm sure people will find that very enjoyable. There are so many weird things that have happened to me lately, though, and I need to speak about them while they're still somewhat fresh. Number one.
Please do.
Oh, I was sleeping last night.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody knows who does not live with me or hasn't, made out with me in my apartment. But my bed is located right near my window. I live in the second story of my building, and the windows have sandstone ledges outside.
Yes.
Where occasionally little bird friends come and visit me. Last night I was sleeping, having this weird dream where this strange sound was infiltrating the dream, and it was like this sound. I don't know if that's even being picked up by the microphone, but it's a weird clicking sound. In the process of having the dream, which was something weird about you and a bunch of our other male friends talking about waxing their asses or something. I don't know. It was a very strange dream.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was strange. I woke up and realized I hadn't woken up yet, but I realized that the sound was from the outside world and it was infiltrating my dream.
Yeah.
So I woke up and I heard the sound coming from right outside my window. I look out and there was this crow on my windowsill staring at me as I slept, making this sound.
Yeah.
And I looked out at the crow and it would cock its head and one of those little beady yellow eyes look at me and then go. And I've never heard a crow make that sound before. Usually they just.
Yeah.
But it was clicking at me and it would not leave. I was like, hello, crow. I felt like Edgar Allan Poe or something, this scary raven / crow.
Yes.
It was very sinister and strange.
Okay, because you know what happened to me 2 nights ago?
No.
I go over to the girlfriend's house. She's watching Project Runway.
Uh-huh.
I'm not into the season, so I can't watch it.
I've never seen
unless
this.
I know the characters. It's really hard to stand the show. So I go to her room, and I lay down, and I start reading a book. Mm-hmm. And the cat comes in there, and the cat gets up on the little windowsill. Cat starts making this noise. And starts like hissing.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong, Lou? And then I kind of look over because it's dark outside and it's light inside. I can't see. There's a raccoon face staring right at me. So I'm like, get out of here, raccoon. You're upsetting the cat. The raccoon's not going anywhere. Uh-huh. The raccoon's like putting its paw up and like trying to play with the cat. The cat's freaked out. And the raccoon just sits there. Uh-huh. The girlfriend comes in. I'm like, look at this raccoon. She's like, oh my God. I'm trying to scare the raccoon away. The raccoon won't go away.
They're
just
completely fearless now. People giving them bread, giving them cat food. They don't care. They get vicious and grabby. I had raccoons that would come to my back deck, and I started giving them bread, which you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
It's like, hey, raccoons, and I like their little hands. So I would give them bread, they'd grab it, just chomp away at it, and then it got to the point where they'd start knocking on the back door.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where they would come to the windows and just like shake the screens, waiting to get this bread. And you could be, hey, get out of here, yelling, screaming. They don't give a shit.
But you facilitated this behavior at this point.
I did. It was my own fault. But yeah, so we both had creepy harbingers of doom coming to our windows.
It is, right? It's like the animal apocalypse is coming.
Well, if this were 500 years ago and I was some peasant somewhere and a crow was at my windowsill, like,
yeah,
just staring at me, that would mean something, wouldn't it? It would mean it was like a
the next day you'd wake up and like
I'd have to get some salt.
Your mother would have like
shoulder.
fallen in the like the butter or something and died, and you would have been like,
know,
it was a harbinger.
Obviously, it was that crow.
It was that crow.
Yeah.
She was churning the butter and she fell right in. The crow tried to warn me.
I also had a crazy guy mistaking me for his good friend Dave. I just recently shaved my beard today.
Oh yeah, you
in
did,
fact.
didn't you?
I had had one for over a month and got to the point where we spoke before about people just telling me what they thought of me. I had a waitress tell me that I look like a hobo.
Welcome to my world.
How did I? Because my beard. Okay, you didn't see me at its full length finally because I just shaved today, but it's perfectly straight. It just grows out perfectly straight like some old Asian man or something. It's really weird. And I thought eventually it would kind of like curl up or something and kind of bush out. But no, it's just this weird, straight pubic hair growing out of my face.
That makes me wonder, like, if you did just let it grow and grow and grow for years, so it would just grow straight down in this weird line.
I think so. Because I kept expecting it to kind of fluff up, but it never did.
Then it would be like a wispy sort of old Asian man that you go see on a mountaintop, right? They always have that beard going down. It's always just going straight down. It's not like curled up at all. You could be that guy.
Yeah, well, I have that to look forward to anyway. But yeah, it was... I gave it over a month, and it just wasn't working anymore. And so I decided to shave it off. But the nail in the coffin was I was downtown the other day. This dude who was... I don't know, in his mid to late 30s, bald guy, kind of skinny and twitchy looking.
Yeah.
He was like, "Right?" And he said this name, and I couldn't quite hear what it was, but I assumed he was saying my name.
Yeah.
And so I made the mistake of turning around and looking at him expectantly, and he's like, "Oh, hey, it is you." And I went, aha, because I often don't remember people, and so I always pretend that I do, just because it makes it easier.
Or it gives you a little bit of time to search your brain and see if you can remember this person.
So he came up and said, "How long's it been, man? 10 years? It's been a long time, yeah."
No, now you dug yourself a little hole.
There you go.
There.
How you doing there, buddy? He's like, "Oh, it's great, man. Hey, when did you move from Portland, man?" It's like, Portland. I've been to Portland. This is my internal thought process. What? And before I could even really answer him, he started going off. Apparently, we went to college together.
Yeah.
We were really good friends in college.
Yeah.
He asked me about a girl who I was dating at the time. Conversation went on for a good 3 minutes. You would think, okay. I know sometimes...
You can't completely blame this on him, though.
No, but I know that sometimes people sort of look like each other, and maybe I sort of look like this guy. Maybe this guy had a beard or something, a long, wispy Asian beard. But after a while of talking to somebody, I've never met anybody who I knew really well. Okay, if I had a friend who I was really good friends with, and then I saw somebody who looked kind of like them, and maybe from afar mistook them for that person, after having a conversation, even before the conversation, I would realize that it was not that person.
But I would also assume if I was addressing that person, and it was the wrong person, they might be like, "Oh, I think you've mistaken me for someone else."
Yes.
Rather than just keep trying to maintain the conversation. That's what's also throwing him off, right?
I guess, but sometimes I didn't expect it to last as long as it did. And then again, that thing happens where you get in too deep, and then backing out is more trouble than just...
That's what you get yourself in trouble with, right?
I do.
You start like trying to compensate, or one little lie or one little thing gets in there, and the next thing you know, you have to like be like, "I'm sorry, I wasn't mean to deceive you, but I've deceived you in some way."
Well, this is pretty much the only time I lie is with strangers, because often it's easier. People are like, "Oh, you ever been to Mexico? Puerto Vallarta?" I'm like, Yes, and it was great. Then they're disarmed and they can't bug you about how much you need to go to Puerto Vallarta. You just say, "Oh, yes, I went there last year and it was amazing. I had a wonderful time." So that's when I lie. I don't lie to people I know. I don't lie about pretty much anything else. But to this guy, and it happened right at the beginning because he said a name and I thought it was my name. Because Brad, from afar, it can be a lot of things.
There's a lot of names like they're like that with me, too. And I hear people yell the names and I always look around. And I think it's like, I'm like, "Oh, what's that? What? Is that for me?"
So it went on a long time. Finally left, say hello to Clara for me, if you see her.
Oh, you actually wrapped it up with him still thinking it was you?
Yeah. So I'm going to have to find out who Clara is and say hello to her from, I can't remember what the guy's name was, Alan or Greg or something
What's going to be interesting if he does run into the actual guy again and be like, "Oh, we saw each other." And he's going to be like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like,
"What the fuck are you talking about?"
Or maybe he might be just like you and be like, "Oh, yes, the time we saw each other in Bellingham on the sidewalk and we talked about Clara." I have to imagine that this guy is slightly fucked up to have the conversation with me for that long and not realize, or else he just has really poor vision. But I mean, you can get that feel about people though too, right? He seemed kind of weird. Yeah. He was way too friendly. That always makes me a little distrustful. Yeah. And one other thing. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other things, but we have to cut this segment. I was at the bakery yesterday, and there was this little kid who was of mixed race. His mother was Hispanic, and his father was white. And it was interesting because the dad was talking to the kid in English, and the mother was talking to him in Spanish. And I like that, because if I married
let's just say a Japanese woman. Let's just take that out of the air. If I married a Japanese girl, I would want her to speak to my kids in Japanese, because then you get the bilingual thing going, and they're way ahead of everybody else. But anyway, she was like calling him a little monkey over and over again, like, oh, mokoso, and he was like doing these little monkey noises. And then he started doing the thing where he noticed me, and so he started making faces at me and doing things. And then you have to respond to the kid, or else, I don't know, I just feel that that's necessary. And so I started making faces at the kid. And it was exactly like that scene in Swingers when they're at the cafe and Vince Vaughn thinks that the woman is making faces at him. He's like, oh, you're playing your little baby games.
Oh, no. There was somebody behind you?
I started making faces at the kid, not realizing that there was this girl sitting the next seat over from the kid who was probably, I don't know, she's in her early to mid-20s or something. And she was with her friend. I was making these ridiculous faces at the kid, like winking and sticking my tongue out and doing all these crazy things. Suddenly looked up and saw the girl staring at me, just horrified at what I was doing, thinking, I don't know what she thinks my process is when I'm hitting on somebody. I don't know under what circumstances that would ever be a great move, a great pickup move, but she was horribly offended by the whole thing, and her friend were talking about me for the entire rest of the time.
Typical.
Yeah.
You and that bagel shop.
That's what I get for trying to be friendly to a little child.
Never do it.
I'm just going to go back to my normal routine of scowling at them whenever they look at me.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Wow, we are just chatting up a storm here. We're going to have to race through our Celebrity Minute. We're on a tight schedule.
I don't know what is going on with you today. You're so worried about like the time constraints.
Well, I just want to get through it. I got to get through it. There's so many great stories. First story from Us Weekly. Chris Brown partied with Karrueche Tran the night before Rihanna ignored him. For those of you who don't know...
Oh, there's Karrueche Tran.
Karrueche Tran and Chris Brown had an on-again, off-again relationship during which he and Rihanna were having their little trysts, their little flirtations. Karrueche was sort of the woman scorned. She took to Twitter to complain several times. Her and Rihanna exchanged tweets on Twitter. But apparently,
really bad-spirited tweets?
Oh, yes. But apparently, Chris Brown went and partied. Top Man Top Shop was opening in L.A., and so they're having an opening party or something. And so Chris Brown was there, and he went with Karrueche Tran as his date. The next night, he went to a Hollywood club. Rihanna was there with her entourage. Chris Brown was there with his entourage. Rihanna completely blanked him. She dissed him. She scorned him. Trouble in paradise.
Paradise would be a strange word to use for the situation. Who knows if it may have just all been a thing that they did to get in the tabloids, I think.
The publicists got together. Let's get Karrueche, let's get Rihanna, let's get Chris Brown, let's make some fodder for the tabloids.
Do you think these three people have really intense feelings about each other, and this has just happened to play out in the media?
I don't think they have feelings.
Karrueche Tran.
She's kind of cute.
Yeah, she is. For some reason, when we had talked about Karrueche Tran in the past, I had some weird vision in my mind of like weird woman.
The pictures that were on all those stories weren't very good of her, but she's actually quite attractive.
Yeah, this is a nice photo.
Obviously, at least half Vietnamese. Maybe more.
Maybe more.
Tran. That's a Vietnamese last name. This is a very compelling story. Also from Us Weekly. 25 things you don't know about Amanda Bynes.
Oh, good.
I know a lot of people want to know more about Amanda Bynes. I know we've mentioned her before in the past. We've talked about her problems with the law, her driving infractions, her complete irrelevancy and lack of talent. But these
her body piercing.
These things are more important. Number one, my first concert was the Spice Girls. I always wanted to be posh. Number two, I've always loved drawing, and my dream is to start a fashion line. Number three, I went on Accutane, and it really helped my skin clear up.
Really?
Number four, my favorite store is American Apparel.
Huh.
Number five, now Warren, you might not know this. Rag & Bone makes the best jeans. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but I do know one thing about Accutane, which is it does sometimes make people unstable.
It is no longer allowed on the market because it fucks people up. It destroys your ability to produce sebum after a while, and then you're just screwed. I moved to New York City, and I love it. I lost 4 pounds since I moved. I'm 121 pounds. My goal is 100 pounds.
Uh-oh. That's not good. That's not... Wait, oh, no. That's not a good goal. That's a bad goal. Are they putting that in Us Weekly?
That was number 15 of the 25 things you don't know
That's not a good
her.
goal.
Warren, did you know that macaroons are her favorite cookie?
Yeah, I did know that, actually.
You did know that, yeah. So that's great, because I always wanted to know more about Amanda Bynes, other than just, the headlines splashed across tabloid sites.
So this was in Us Weekly, recently?
I'm going to call Us Weekly, or I'll have my publicist call Us Weekly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell them 25 things they don't know about me. Now, Warren, if somebody asked for 25 things they didn't know about you, would macaroons or weight loss be amongst them?
No. What? I don't know if I have anything interesting like that.
So you're saying this is more interesting than you could say about yourself?
Possibly. Yeah, it's interesting when you're like, tell me something interesting about yourself. This would be odd because if I ever did become a celebrity and they sit me down at the Us Weekly offices and they're like, tell us some interesting things about yourself we can put in this article, I'm like, fuck.
Favorite cookie?
I like peanut butter cups.
Okay.
You
like Dickies? Dickies are your favorite jeans?
I do like Dickies are my favorite pants. I do wear Dickies. But those are things I'm wearing. I mean,
like things
the
are
only
obvious.
Things
you ever wear.
The shirt I have has a giant hole in it. Oh, and the armpit's going out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. It makes you a lot more relatable, I think, to our listeners as well. Next story. Chubby Checker sues Hewlett-Packard and Palm over racy app that predicts penis size. The app, as I assume you can imagine, is called the Chubby Checker.
Okay, this is interesting because I was wondering what he could have upset him so much, where it was like, there's an app that guesses penis size, and one of them is like, put your name in. The other one's like, Chubby Checker. And you just click Chubby Checker and it gives you an estimate.
It is the Chubby Checker, and apparently somehow a woman is supposed to measure a man's foot surreptitiously, and that's going to give you the prediction of their penis size. And as we all know, there is no correlation between foot size and penis size. Because, Warren, you wear what, like a 13? And
I have it, and my penis is 13 inches long. Exactly. Yeah. Is it just the length, or does it incorporate width?
I don't know. I mean, I only have a 10.5. So where does that leave me? We all know that my penis is at least 4 times bigger than yours.
You're like Krusty a Clown walking around. That's what it should be going on?
It should be. From the Associated Press, designer admits molesting wannabe model in New York. Fashion designer convicted in California of molesting would-be models pleaded guilty Thursday in New York to a similar charge in a deal prosecutor said was brokered to spare victims from testifying multiple times. Anand John Alexander admitted to 1 count of criminal sexual act and was sentenced to 5 years for sexually assaulting a woman he baited with the promise of modeling work. This guy has started his own fashion line. He was starting to cultivate quite a career from it. He was featured on America's Next Top Model. He worked with Paris Hilton and Mary J. Blige.
Ooh.
He was amongst 20 people profiled by Newsweek in 2006 as up-and-coming players in various industries. There's been 49 charges levied against him, including rape, drugging, and mafia death threats, all for prospective models.
Death threats?
Yeah, I don't know if he was threatening that mob members were going to kill models if they didn't suck him off or something.
Yeah, that's probably something, the threats.
What struck me about this story, I have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
There's one thing that's very interesting about this story, right?
He's not gay.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's like, if potential models out there, if someone's trying to lure you into some sort of modeling arrangement, and the person's claims to be some sort of fashion designer, and they're straight,
run away. Because to me, I'm not condoning sexual assault in any way. I'm not condoning.
Oh, good.
Yes. I know that's a controversial stance for me to take. I'm not condoning coercion. Anything like that.
Yes.
But it just kind of makes sense that if there's a dude like, here's my card, show up at my studio, I'll take some pictures. He's trying to have sex with you. And even if they're not going to go to the point of drugging you and raping you, they're still going to put the pressure on. They're going to be like, why don't you try it without the shirt? It's more artistic. Oh, let's see. That's what you expect.
Then you can do a casting couch situation, right?
Exactly.
Where you feel like you have to forward your career.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that just what you expect to happen? So, for safety's sake, go with the gay fashion designer. I mean, we had Roman Polanski. That was modeling pics for the 13-year-old. She was posing for photographs for him. It goes
Really?
hand
Was that
in hand.
what was going on that day?
Yeah.
Why was he doing that?
At Jack Nicholson's house? I don't know.
He's a feature film director.
I know. He also was a photographer. Exactly, Warren. You see my point?
Yes. Okay, this is the thing. I'll say this. If, like, tomorrow I go on Craigslist and I get a new camera and I'm like...
Models needed.
Yeah, I need young women to come over to my house. I'm going to take pictures of you for modeling. I just need you to come by my house, come into my house.
Right.
In a room where we'll just be together. And then we'll see, I'll take some pictures of you.
Well,
it's suspicious.
Where's the equipment? Where are, like, the lights and the backdrops and everything?
And like that, there's a wall. That's a backdrop.
But don't you
need a camera?
Don't you need like a key light and a fill light? And
I'm like, I don't know what those things are.
You are a photographer though. You're an artist.
Like I do have a soil mattress on the ground here. So
what do I have to do? Do I have to like get on the
you
mattress?
pounce on her?
Yeah. Next story from Us Weekly as well. Hugh Jackman addresses gay rumors. It bugs my wife. I guess that would bug my wife too.
His wife's name is Deborah Lee Furness.
Okay, now this story, I'm going to try to do this in a way that doesn't make me sound like a dick.
Yeah.
I had never heard any gay rumors about Hugh Jackman. I had no idea that these rumors existed. Then I saw the picture of his wife, and suddenly I understood where they came from. We'll post this picture online.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong, necessarily. She's much older. She's, I believe, 57, and he is 44.
Okay, I know this is really bad, but at the same time, like, I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm like...
Yeah, he's gay.
And I'm not trying to be mean, and it's like, fine if he's gay and everything.
Yeah.
But he is, like, in musical theater and has, like, an old wife, and he's, like, a really attractive man.
Really good-looking guy.
Like, you talk to women about Hugh Jackman, they're like, woo! They're over the moon for Hugh Jackman.
Well, and everything in this story... It talks about how they met, 17 years ago. So at the time, he was in his 20s when he met this person. She was already 40.
Yeah.
First of all, that's weird. There aren't a lot of younger guys who go for older women. It just doesn't work that way most of the time.
That's pretty unusual.
He was involved in musical theater. That's when he met her. All these directors are talking about, I've known him for years, and his eye has never strayed. He's never gone with any other woman. To me,
that's another suspicious thing, isn't it?
That isn't confirming his heterosexuality for me. That's actually a mark against it, in my opinion. Not that I think that you should cheat on your wife, but the idea that, he's so devoted to this much older, much less attractive person.
We've talked about this before. If you're like a professional athlete or a big star...
Yeah.
And then you get married young, and then they all end up cheating numerous times because there's so many options out there for them. Mm-hmm. There's no shortage of like options for Hugh Jackman for attractive women around like all the time.
Yeah.
And if people are like, he's extremely loyal, he never even looks at him. He's doing a song and dance number, and his wife's like an old woman. At some point, you're kind of like, everything adds up.
So basically, all this story did, I had no opinion, never heard any rumors about him being gay, but now reading the story, supposedly refuting the fact that he's gay, now I think he's gay. So there you go. Hugh Jackman is gay.
Hugh Jackman, if you are gay, please, it's 2013. Please just come out of the closet. You can still be Wolverine. I don't think anyone's going to care.
Last story, we got to wrap up Celebrity Minute. Also from Us Weekly, Forrest Whitaker falsely accused of shoplifting at New York City Deli.
Okay, that's probably my famous headline ever. My favorite headline ever because it's like Forrest Whitaker.
He's the most like
not someone you would think would be shoplifting.
No,
and the fact that he would be shoplifting at a deli.
Yeah, what is he? Was he taking? I don't know, locks or something out of the
I don't know. Let's hear about this story.
And of course, the picture they show of Forrest Whitaker, he looks like the friendliest little guy in the world.
Like the most harmless man ever.
Forrest Whitaker was reportedly frisked and searched at New York City's Milano Market on Friday, February 15th. As the Oscar winner was leaving the Upper East Side deli, he was stopped by an employee who thought he had been shoplifting. According to TMZ, the store employee patted 51-year-old Whitaker down and found nothing on the last King of Scotland actor. Since when can store employees frisk people? They have to call the cops.
No, this is the problem. People don't know
what the law is.
You can just like walk away and be like, go fuck yourself.
They can't make you stay.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're in a store and someone like tells you to stop or tells you to do something, we've talked about this before. People just obey when they're told to do something. Tell somebody to fuck off and just go and walk away.
Apparently, nothing was found on Whitaker. He hadn't stolen anything.
But the other thing about Forrest Whitaker is he is a wealthy. He's an old man.
Yeah.
And some guy's like grabbing him, trying to like pat him down for stealing stuff at a deli.
Barely recognizable.
He wasn't going to like just take off. He was probably just like probably surprised at what was going on.
Whitaker's rep said that Forrest did not call the authorities at the request of the worker who was in fear of losing his employment. Forrest asked that in the future the store change their behavior and treat the public in a fair and just manner.
What is going on?
Is this just an insanely racist employee?
You know what I mean? A lot of times you hear about things happening and people will be like racial profiling,
Yeah.
and you'll be like, that seems a little bit of a stretch. This seems like a racial profiling
It's
incident.
either
doesn't it?
that. It's either crazy racial profiling or there was some weird, strange thing that happened. Maybe, I don't know. We never know about any of these stories because all you hear about it is third hand from their representative or lawyers or something. But maybe, who knows? Maybe he looked like he pocketed something. Maybe something happened, but he didn't steal anything. With the information we have, it seems like, there's a black man sitting in this deli in the Upper East Side. There are black people living in New York.
But even if you are racially profiling somebody, you would racially profile like a young kid, with a baseball cap on
Do you pat
backwards.
down every black dude that comes into the deli?
Well-dressed, affluent black man is 50, comes into a deli, and then you have, why would you even be watching him to see if he was shoplifting?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that Forrest Whitaker didn't fly off the handle.
Yeah,
I think that's a very classy way to handle it.
Because I could imagine if it happened to someone else, Jesse Jackson would be
if it happened to
involved.
lots of other people that like
Al
to overreact.
Sharpton would be in a tracksuit protesting somewhere with a gold chain on.
We'd have
loudspeaker.
riots everywhere, and the city would be burning and everything.
So thanks to Forrest Whitaker for keeping everything in proportion. And I think that's it for Celebrity Minute.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Beer $1.
And give me a motherfucking cigarette.
I ran out of gas ways back.
Got me that. You smoke weed, don't you?
Good in the car.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
So as I mentioned in the intro segment of the show, we have Street Freaks, 3 on the roster. Didn't get to them last week. The first one, as I was walking out the back door of my apartment into my parking lot, we have our dumpsters back there, and we've already had several encounters with street freaks at dumpsters.
Drinking coffee in there.
This time, there was a homeless dude, had the dumpster open, was rooting through the dumpster, and just taking bags of garbage, opening them, dumping them on the ground, and then rooting through the garbage that was on the ground.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know what he's looking for. We have our bottles and cans are separate. So anything that could give him any sort of monetary value has already been separated for him. All he needs to do is open the thing and
He's
grab
just
the
hoping
bag
for
out.
some treasure maybe in there.
I don't know what he thinks he's going to find, but he was rooting through, just spreading trash all over the parking lot. So I came out, see the guy doing it. I'm like, He looks up, gives me a nod, and just goes back to rooting through the trash. You need to stop doing that, please. Can you stop it?
Yeah.
Like, oh, doing what?
That's a good question.
You're spreading garbage all over the parking lot. It's making a huge mess. I didn't do it. And then he gives me this look. Like, what are you going to do about it?
You can't prove anything.
You can't prove it. And he's crouched over the bag that he had just ripped open. Yes, you did do it. Please stop. I'm not doing anything. Okay, you're not doing it now, but you just were. Mm-hmm. I saw you doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait here until you walk away. You need to leave. I'd like you to pick up all the garbage that you spread around and throw it back in the dumpster, but I know you're not going to do that. So just leave. Why don't you leave?
Oh.
I live here. You do not live here. Leave. Go away. Maybe you're the one who put the garbage on the ground.
Ooh. Interesting. You turn the tables on you
I
like
know.
that.
What am I going to do with this? No, I did not put the garbage on the ground. You put the garbage on the ground, so please stop and leave. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh.
All right, here we go. Mexican standoff with homeless guy. How much time do I devote to this? On my way to
knowing
work.
Brad Victor, you could be there for days.
Well, I do have a certain... I get my back up, and I like to have my way occasionally. And also, I figure that if this is a homeless man, I can probably out-talk him. I can probably out-think him.
Yeah.
But no, I couldn't. He just stonewalled me. He would not leave. He would not admit to spreading the garbage around. Here I am. I'm here wasting all this time because a crazy homeless man is throwing
Were you guys
garbage
just
all over
staring
me.
at each other the whole time?
I just kept saying, you got to leave. I'm not leaving. You have to leave. It's so pointless. Nothing. There's nothing can come of
Okay,
this.
did you go with you're going to call the police?
No, I don't threaten calling the police. Because then, let's say I call the police. Because then I would have to go through with my bluff.
No, you wouldn't.
Because he wouldn't leave. I could tell right away. This man was challenging me completely. There was no way he was going to leave unless he saw a cop car approaching, and then he might leave. So then I have to wait for the cops. Then I have to explain to the cops, this isn't dangerous, really. It's annoying. It's a nuisance. I don't know.
So you just went back in the building?
I just got in my truck and drove away.
Drove away.
Yeah. And he went back to rooting through the garbage.
Is the garbage? Did somebody clean up the garbage?
I can't remember when I came home if it was gone or not.
That guy really showed you.
Yeah, he did.
You look like the asshole in this story.
Defeated.
And his podcast is going to be like normal freak of the week. Made this guy look like an idiot.
Next one, I have my little corner I like to stand on downtown and watch people as they wander around.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of this.
Also get approached by street freaks on a regular basis. I was standing there last weekend. This was going to be the street freak of the week last week. And there's this little guy who I see occasionally. I'd never had an interaction with him before, but he looks, speaking of The Hobbit, he looks like he's wearing makeup for one of the dwarves in The Hobbit.
Oh, that's bad.
He has this kind of weird bulbous nose, and he's bald with speckles all over his bald pate and his weird kind of stringy hair that comes out, little beard, red beard. He's really short and squat and kind of round and roly-poly. He's got a little cane, too, like a nice staff.
This guy just came out from under a bridge.
I know, he's a little troll.
Yeah.
He walks around. I always see him. He's always very quiet. I've never seen him do anything crazy or shout or scream or freak out.
Yeah.
But he kind of sidled up to me while I was standing by the corner.
They tend to do that.
Yeah, they do. And he gave me a very quiet...
Everything? No?
I was like, okay. What was that? What'd you say?
Do you think I could have a cigarette?
And he gave me the gesture, the two fingers to the mouth. Like, all right. He's a quiet guy. Never caused any trouble. So I gave him the cigarette. Need a light?
No, I've got a light.
He gets a book of matches out. I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Oh, he's an old-timey guy.
Went through almost every match in the book trying to get it to light because the wind was blowing it out. So I tried to offer him my lighters. Oh, no. Lights it with his book of matches. Seemed like we got off to a pretty good start.
I think things are going really well at this point. You guys
off
are
on the
buddies.
right foot,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell. Oh, no. Because shortly after, as he's smoking his cigarette, he sidles up closer.
I like to stand on this corner. I like to lean against this.
He pointed to one of the R2-D2 things, the bollards that we've talked about in the past, which I like to set my coffee on.
I like to lean on this because my leg is kind of bad.
Okay, yeah, I like to stand on this corner, too. I like to watch the people go by. Still trying to relate to the guy. He sidled up closer.
Oh, I like to stand on this corner. Right here.
Yes.
Okay, I got to say right now, things have turned. Like, you are being dominated by the street freaks.
I know. Maybe word has gotten
They're
around.
smelling it on you.
I don't know.
They're like, they're not going to do anything you tell them to do. They're like, get the fuck out of my way.
I'm gonna have to make some changes and start getting adamant, start getting more confrontational. Because once they get one over on you, then it's just it'll never end. It'll just be constant harassment by these street freaks. So he's very adamantly telling me that this is his corner.
Yeah.
And he's going to stand on this corner. And I am trying to play it off like, oh, yeah, I like to stand on the corner, too. I'm just standing here drinking my coffee.
This is my corner that I stand on.
Never gets aggressive. He just keeps restating it over and over and over and kind of just staring at me. And after about 5 minutes of him staring right at me, not wavering in any way from his gaze, I again gave up.
Yeah.
I just had to leave.
Well, you know what? He made the right move then.
I guess.
Because you're just going to bend and run away.
It was sort of nonviolent protest, I guess. He just he staked his claim to that area. He knew that his close proximity to me was going to make me uncomfortable eventually, and he has nothing better to do when it comes right down to it. He could be there for days waiting for me to
This is the way
leave.
you want to explain the fact that you basically just got your head humped by somebody.
Head humped. All right, and the very last street freak, the one that occurred...
You're not going to get, like, raped in an alley by a street freak, are you?
I hope not.
Okay.
Let's hope it doesn't go that far. But it would make an amusing anecdote for street freak. The very last street freak, the one that occurred right before you arrived last week, I was standing on the corner waiting for you by my apartment, and a man in a poncho approached. And right off the bat, I saw he had this rain poncho on that covered about to his knees. Notice was not wearing pants.
Uh-oh.
It was just bare legs underneath the poncho. So I was like, okay, it's not really cold out. It's, maybe in the 40s.
It is February.
It's possible he's wearing shorts. Not sure why he'd be wearing shorts. As a homeless man, I think there's a lot of, scrabbling around, sleeping in uncomfortable places. You don't want your bare legs exposed to the broken glass and the syringes and the used condoms and things like that.
Yeah, but again, there's also a lot of mental illness.
Yeah.
And people just wearing ponchos with nothing
So I'm
underneath.
okay, maybe he's wearing some dolphin shorts or something, or some nice board shorts underneath his poncho. He sees me there smoking. He approaches. Hey, could I have a cigarette? No, sorry. You can't have a cigarette. Okay. What do you think of this? Lifts the poncho.
No.
Wearing women's underwear under the poncho. High-cut, lacy, pink women's underwear.
Jesus.
From the front,
Yeah.
I see the women's underwear. He's waiting for my reaction. I just go, there you go.
Yeah.
Turns around, thong back. And he saunters off.
Well, there's your winner right there.
Okay.
What is going on?
I don't know.
Is he just doing this all day?
I don't know. I don't know where he found this underwear. I don't know if he stole it off a clothesline somewhere in somebody's backyard or something. Takes his pants off, puts those on,
But is this a
slips
means
them
of
on.
punishing people for not giving him things?
I guess. He just wants to get a reaction out of people. I didn't give him a reaction, luckily. I just...
No, you just,
Yeah, there you go. And he walked off.
Well, at least you didn't get scared off your own corner there.
All right, so congratulations. Poncho wearing woman's underwear. And the other thing, too, is that the testicles were... he had a testicle camel toe.
Yeah.
Because they were pulled up so far.
I believe you.
You've been selected as this week's Street Freak of the Week.
Congratulations.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warner Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
So I know we were talking angrily about movies earlier.
Yeah.
I know how much they annoy us and disgust us.
Oh, I love movies. Don't get me wrong. I love movies. But
I'm at the point where I don't actually like movies.
There are
I
a
think.
lot that piss me off, but yes.
So I finally got around to watching the new Batman movie.
Oh, yes.
The Dark Knight Rises, I believe.
He does.
It was very long.
It was. I enjoyed it. Did you like it?
The Dark Knight ended up in a pit. It was okay. I mean, it was pretty entertaining.
Don't give it away.
It looked really great. Yeah. Yeah, if you're looking for the movie to not have a scene in a pit, you're going to be really disappointed.
I do love the fact that he had a broken back, and just by doing push-ups in the pit, he
They put him in a rope thing, and they just dangled him there.
What the hell that was
The other
about.
thing was he also had a lot of physical damage from the previous movie, which
And
I
that
didn't
all just
remember
kind of
very
went
well.
away, I
Yeah,
guess?
they're like, oh, you have no cartilage in any of
Yeah.
your joints and everything. But then they showed him with some sort of mechanical apparatus on his legs.
Yeah,
so he
but
could
I don't
kick through
think
a
he
wall.
had that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if you go through a training montage and you're getting back into shape, then...
Apparently, you could regrow the cartilage and
Yeah.
stuff in your joints.
Yeah, but we'll put that aside.
And so, spoilers.
Uh-huh.
Spoilers. He survives. He ends up in retirement with Anne Hathaway, with Michael Caine creepily looking on behind as
Yeah.
he's drinking his aperitif or something.
That was the other thing. Okay. I mean, I don't think this is what you wanted to discuss, but Michael Caine, who loved Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
who raised him, thought he was dead. He was dissolved into tears thinking that he was dead. And then he sees him at this cafe in France or wherever the fuck he is, and instead of going, "Oh my God, you're alive!" he goes, "Yeah," and just gives him a little nod.
That's because they talked about that's what he would do.
I know, but come on. Really?
But nothing about the movie's believable.
I know. It was still, I liked it. It was
The
entertaining.
movie's, I mean, it's ridiculous. And if you just go with it being ridiculous, it's pretty,
Yeah.
fun. But it got me thinking about, superheroes like Batman, even though things aren't very realistic within that world, he
doesn't have any
theoretically,
powers.
yeah, he's just a man.
He's really
He's a
intelligent.
man full of rage.
Yeah.
And he's very smart with a lot of money. Unlike, your Supermans who have these magical powers.
Basically invincible.
But if you could choose to be any one of these people, the Marvel or the DC universe, your Wolverines, all your X-Men, your Silver Surfer, as we liked as a child, What would you go? Who would you be? Because a lot of them are tortured.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the archetype of the superheroes, that their power sets them apart from other people, and so
they're lonely.
They're always lonely. They always feel like outcasts, outsiders, even though they try to channel their angst into helping people. That's interesting because I think we've discussed being like crime fighters before, but that was more in kind of like the kick-ass way of just deciding to put on spandex and run around the city.
This is like you're actually taking on this person's life.
Right.
Like in the second Superman movie, remember when
Superman decided to pack it in?
The three weirdos come and they're like, we're going to take over your country or your world, and then he's like, I give up.
General Zod.
I get rid of my powers, and then he gets his ass kicked in a bar or something.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that's really a bummer. But that's the problem with Superman, right?
Yeah.
You're living a lonely existence too, right?
All this angst. I don't know. If you could fly around, think of Superman in our actual society. In the DC universe or wherever, in Metropolis, people, it's Superman. He flies around. People like the fact that he saves the day. But the fact that you would have to have the secret identity as the little wuss Clark Kent, if there really were a Superman, if I were Superman, for instance, I would wait until, I don't know, the Super Bowl or something. I would fly into the Superdome. I would just fly down during halftime or something. People would be like, what the fuck is this? And I'd be like, hello, everyone. I'm Super Brad. And everyone would be, oh, my God, he's flying. And then I would be on all these talk shows, and all the shtick would be me sitting on the couch and something. I'd start levitating up, and people would be like, oh, my God. People would they'd just be throwing money at me, hand over fist. It would be fine. You'd be fine. There'd be all these women lining up to screw you.
That's what you want to do, though?
No, not necessarily. I'm just saying that all this angst, all this like outsider angst.
Why is he Clark? Why does he do the Clark Kent thing? Because that's why he grew up that way? Like his farmer parents were like, you got to be normal. Your name's Clark Kent.
Yeah,
and then
I don't know.
After a while, he just decided to be a superhero part-time?
I think it's just the weird archetype that you have to have a secret identity if you're a superhero.
Yeah, because he could just...
And no one can know who you are.
No, but I mean, does that alleviate his loneliness a little bit? Because he gets to have a normal life?
Maybe he can just be a normal person and relate to people on a normal level. I know that the Fantastic Four... From what I remember, I think they were like government sponsored, and they had people knew their real names. They were out. They were out as superheroes.
That's as far as I remember it too. I don't remember them being that annoyed.
No.
Most of their situations were less about them or their loneliness or alienation from society, and more about like them fighting other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Galactus, or what was the big planet eating thing?
Oh yeah, that was the Silver Surfer's boss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Silver Surfer.
We liked the Silver Surfer.
I loved him when I was a kid. I don't know why. I mean, and that's okay. So getting back to the original question.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and I would read comic books, I loved Wolverine because he seemed more grounded. He was someone who could not shoot lasers out of his eyes, or the Silver Surfer had the power cosmic that he would shoot out of his hands, these weird light rays, and he floated around on a surfboard.
There's also
Wolverine could heal really well. He was immortal, which I always liked the idea of, and he had some blades in his hands.
But he would like kick people's asses
He
in
was
the way
gritty.
that you could understand, right?
He would slice people up and punch people, and he was cool. And he didn't fly. He didn't have any like super... He was strong, I guess, and his healing factor. But so I always wanted to be more of a Wolverine kind of character as a kid, or like a Batman character. I didn't read Batman comics as a kid, but I liked the idea of someone who was more grounded. But Batman is a little too grounded because he is human. He does have no power. He's just highly trained and has this amazing deductive mind.
That's how the Iron Man is too, right?
Yeah, see, I didn't like Iron Man because all it was a suit.
I always thought that suit looked dumb.
Yeah.
In the comic books.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted some power, but I didn't want to be... I still want to be human. I want to be able to relate to people.
So which one? I mean, do you have one?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of actually living a life being a superhero. Because if I had blades in my hands and a healing factor and was immortal, let's say I decided, I'm just gonna live a life. Just live a life. I'll settle down, get married. My wife would die eventually. My children would grow up. They would die eventually, and I'd still be alive.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that, that would be the most horrible thing in the world. All the people you love and know die, and you're still there. You make new friends, you get another wife. It's not a big deal. That wouldn't be that horrible. But I think you would feel compelled, because you had blades in your hands and because you had a healing factor, that you thought you should somehow fight crime. But there aren't any supervillains. I can't imagine if I decided I was going to patrol the streets of New York and there's some purse snatcher or somebody trying to rob a bank, what am I going to... I'm going to slice them in half with my blades? I think the proportion of my response would be a little off there.
Yeah, I don't know what way you would be most useful to society at that point if you were Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do to help people?
I don't know. Just cutting up petty criminals all the time. Like, all right.
Well, we talked about that before.
Thank you, Wolverine. You stopped the purse snatcher.
But you've
Did
killed
you
him.
need to decapitate him?
But we talked about this with the people that were dressing up like heroes, like Phoenix Jones, about how what are the odds you're going to eventually see like a purse snatching?
Yeah.
Does Wolverine have any power where he can like sense that it's about to happen?
Well, he was part of the X-Men, and so Charles Xavier would use his telepathic powers, and then he'd figure things out.
But if you were
would
just
dispatch
Wolverine
the
living
team.
in this apartment,
well, from what I could tell from the comics, when Wolverine was not part of the X-Men and was just on his own, he would just like wander around the woods, or he'd go to some underworld crime city in Asia, and he would just fuck with people and just live this rough and tumble life. He didn't have the hero mentality all the time. And he had a rage that had to be reined in. When I was a little kid, I always used to think about being invisible because basically I just thought of going into the fitting rooms and, staring at naked women all the time. But now that I'm an adult and I've actually had sex, you realize that being invisible and just staring at naked women isn't necessarily that amazing.
and as far as like superpowers are going to alienate you in some way,
Yeah.
that's going to eventually alienate you from everyone. Especially if you're always like finding out everyone's secrets because you're lurking around their houses, hearing all their secret conversations and seeing what they do by themselves in private. It's going to drive you crazy.
Is there any superhero who has the power to control time?
Oh,
Because that'd be cool. I used to think of that as a kid too. Like you'd be walking around, you see a hot chick, you stop time, and you're like, ooh, take a look. And then start it
it's
up.
all about just looking at women.
As a child, that was all I thought about.
superpowers.
And this is when I used to think about these things.
I thought you were going to go with the thing where you saw an attractive woman and then you wanted to say something, but you like stop time so you think about it, you're like,
No, I thought about
great
that
approach.
too. Yeah. Or you could try it out, then reverse, then go for it. If it didn't work, if you got slapped across the face, like, all right, let's try that again.
I think this is the theme of your existence is just like access to attractive women.
Well,
any question comes back to like, if I could just have access to many attractive women, I would be happy. What are ways that this can happen?
that is a major part of my life. But we're talking about the superhero thing, and when I thought about superheroes was when I was a child, and when I was 13 or 14
Nothing
years
was more
old,
important to
all
you.
I thought about was seeing naked women. And now, at this age, I have seen a lot of naked women, both real and fake naked women. And while I still enjoy seeing naked women, it's not the major ambition in my life. I wouldn't say I've sated that, but
it's different.
It's a little different now. Yeah.
So now you're going to move on to fighting crime.
Maybe. See, would I have to look like Wolverine? Because he's like 5'2".
You have to look like Wolverine.
I do?
You're like, you are that person. You have their backstory too.
No.
That's the thing where it's like, I guess if you just take the powers.
Okay, well
it's one thing.
then I would just be Tony Stark because I'd be a handsome billionaire playboy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. When I started thinking about Iron Man, he seems to be having a good time.
Yeah.
He's plenty of money.
Wolverine is a short little hairy dude.
Tony Stark is just way less tortured, right?
As far as I know. All right, well, what about you? To close this out, who would you pick?
I'm gonna go with Tony Stark too. That's the most obvious one to go with.
So
I think
we'll
that's the one that like will mean the least suffering for you.
Yeah.
You can have more of a normal existence.
You don't have to be a mutant freak. You can just be a dude that puts a costume on and flies around.
Yeah.
And you're really smart.
And you're very smart because you can build this amazing suit. Yeah.
All right, so there you go.
Settled.
Let's put that into effect right
listeners,
now.
If you'd like to share with us what superhero you'd like to be, please do on our Twitter.
Get on the horn
Yeah, come
and
on,
let us
people.
know. Podcast at warrenandbradley.com. All right, I think that's enough for the Warren and Bradley Show this week. This has been one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
This is your other host, Warren Van.
Saying,
be Iron Man. I don't know.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast at warrenandbradley.com.